You could be mistaken for assuming these renders were for just any other condo going up on the Miami coastline. Glitzy luxury apartments designed for the highest bidder, complete with a pool stretching between them. They fit in perfectly with every other apartment tower gracing Florida's famous beaches. But these buildings are going up on the site of an unspeakable tragedy, one that shook the city to its core and could change the way we build forever.
The whole building right here is gone.
The building shook, and then I looked out the window and you couldn't see.
It looked like something from like 9/11, literally.
At 1:30 a.m. on the 24th of June 2021, the Champlain South Tower in Miami suffered a partial pancake collapse. The building was barely 40 years old. The tragedy resulted in 55 of the complex's 136 flats being entirely destroyed, killing 98 people. At the time of publishing this video, we still don't fully know why the building collapsed. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, is investigating. But piecing together an incident like this takes years and sometimes even decades. It's a process that's extremely important to get right. Here's what we know so far. A pancake collapse is one of the deadliest types of building failures. It's called this for the way the collapsing floors land and stack as they fall, bringing all their weight down on top of the floor below. More and more weight accumulates as the floors fall one after the other. That's why it's known as a progressive failure, a chain reaction set off when a load-bearing element is damaged, typically on the lower floors or in the foundations of the building. But these types of failures are much more common in earthquake zones, not in areas like Florida, where buildings are more susceptible to wind and sea damage than the earth shaking. Discovering what triggered this type of unusual collapse has been paramount in the ongoing investigation, and the findings could set a new standard for building codes. Sadly, this has happened before. Tragedy shapes the way we build. In 1974, a building collapse in Miami changed building codes forever. The roof of a government building caved in, killing 7 people and injuring 15 others. Ever since then, buildings in Miami-Dade County have to go through a recertification process every 40 years. In fact, the Champlain South Tower was going through this very recertification process right before its collapse. As of right now, 400 large pieces of steel-reinforced concrete, along with other pieces of evidence, have been moved to facilities so that teams can begin removing and testing concrete cores and obtaining samples of the rebar. These tests will help investigators learn whether there were any structural flaws in the building by looking at the density of the materials, how porous they are, and whether there was any corrosion. NIST released a statement saying that the investigation is one of the most complex and challenging of its type ever undertaken, with no obvious initiating event for the collapse. The agency says the investigation process won't be completed before the spring of 2024 at the earliest, but that hasn't stopped many different theories from emerging in the media. Days after the collapse, a 2018 report of the Champlain South Tower began to emerge. A consultant had found alarming evidence of major structural damage to the concrete slab below the pool deck, along with cracking in the columns of the parking garage 3 years before the collapse. The report said this concrete and rebar damage was probably caused by persistent water leaks and years of being exposed to corrosive salt air. But it also pointed out a problem with the original design of the building, that the entrance and pool deck is laid on a flat surface and isn't sloped to drain, meaning the water just sits there until it evaporates. Nonetheless, this report gave no dire warning of collapse, and repairs were put off. In the aftermath of the collapse in 2021, a $1 billion settlement for the victims and people who lost family members in the collapse was reached relatively quickly. The money is coming from 37 different sources, including insurance companies, engineering firms, and a luxury condominium whose construction next door was also suspected of contributing to structural damage of the towers. A developer from Dubai also contributed to this settlement. The billionaire purchased the site of the condo for $120 million, barely a year after the collapse. A judge allowed the sale of the land so the money could go towards the victims, but it meant that many people who had hoped this site could be turned into a memorial had their hopes dashed.
2 years after the collapse of the Champlain Towers South building, families of the deceased are still fighting over the proper placement of a permanent memorial.
What will rise on the site instead is a new luxury 12-storey condominium. Designing and constructing this new building is no easy task. The project will have to contend with the emotional weight of its location while fulfilling an economic requirement. This is, after all, one of the most sought-after real estate markets in the country. Notably, there are only going to be 57 residences in these new buildings, a decrease from the previously existing structure, which had 136. While we wait to learn more about the exact cause of this collapse, Florida will now require statewide recertification of condominiums more than 3 stories tall under new legislation. As the investigation comes to an end, this tragedy could change the way we build for generations, and hopefully prevent something like this from ever happening again. You can learn more about this topic and others on our channel over on the World's Best Construction Podcast, available right now wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, make sure you're subscribed to the B1M.